Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Yana Johnson, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Liz Clay. We warmly welcome the family of Second Lieutenant William Harold McMullen, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family, visitors, students from Rockhampton Grammar School, Primary Department, Queensland, and 316 Squadron Australian Air Force cadets. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is earth by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which he remained true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard their record, which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Second Lieutenant William Harold McMullen. William McMullen was born in May 1894 in Brushgrove, New South Wales, to Angus and Matilda McMullen. By the time the First World War began, he was working as a teacher and living in Casino, New South Wales. He enlisted on the 5th of February 1915 at Lismore, and after initial training was sent to Enoggera, Queensland, to join the newly raised 25th Battalion. The 25th Battalion embarked from Brisbane on the 29th of June aboard the transport ship Eunice. After training in Egypt, the battle was sent to Gallipoli in early September, taking over positions from Walker's Ridge to the Neck. With the last offensive actions concluding in August, it was a relatively quiet time for the battalion. McMullen was promoted to acting sergeant on the 1st of November, but his Gallipoli campaign came to an end 10 days later when he was evacuated to Egypt, suffering from jaundice. He rejoined his battalion when it returned to Egypt in early January 1916 and was promoted to sergeant in February. In March, he sailed with his battalion to France. After gaining frontline experience in the nursery sector, the 25th Battalion took part in their first major battle at Pozières, taking over frontline positions from the 1st Division on the 27th and 28th of July. On the 29th of July, the battalion took part in an attack on the OG lines, which was a costly failure. On the night of the 4th and 5th of August, the battalion was involved in another attack, this time with some success. During the attack, however, all the officers in McMullen's company became casualties. McMullen took charge of the men and was prominent in getting their newly won positions consolidated. He constantly exposed himself to mortal danger while assisting wounded members of his company. He was recommended for and awarded a Distinguished Conduct Medal. The 25th Battalion had suffered heavy casualties, and after being relieved at Pozières, the men were sent to Belgium to rest and refit. The battalion returned south in October, in time for the next series of attacks at Fleur. McMullen was commissioned as a second lieutenant on the 1st of November, and 5 days later the battalion took part in the First Battle of Fleur. The 25th Battalion was part of the 7th Brigade's attack on German positions known as the Maze. The attack became bogged down in heavy mud, and the Germans inflicted heavy casualties on the Australians. One of those killed was McMullen. His body was taken from the front line and laid to rest in Wallencourt British Cemetery. He was 22 years old. McMullen's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. In the group portrait of the Casino senior cadets, he is positioned in the back row, second from the left. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Second Lieutenant William Harold McMullen, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They do not grow old as we who are left grow old. Age does not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and good evening.